Since we're on a roll, this was the last question that I'd thought up. It's an off-the-wall topic. Pardon me. In the most recent, Conversations with God, books 1, 2, and 3, and Communion with, which came through Neil Donald Walsh, word at a time, according to him. I gather you're directly more or less connected with the God that came through him.
We are aware, yes.
Well, I mean, we all are, right? Okay.
Well stated.
What I'm puzzled about in the 2 books, The Vortex, Asking It Is Given, and I'm partway through Money and the Law of Attraction, and the handful of videos I've seen so far, nobody's asked you about what God cautions Neil Donald Walsh about, that humanity, if it doesn't clean up its act, could go the way of the previous humans, that technology outstripped their spiritual growth and they wiped themselves out. And Walsh replied, would that be Atlantis? And he said, yeah, that's it's called that. It's by some. Is your focus is just purely growth, but there's never a breath about...
The first thing that comes up around the subject of God, sometimes people will say to us, Abraham, you don't talk much about God. And we say, we actually don't talk about anything else. Because what we are talking about, and we don't use the label, because the label conjures your vibration where you are on it, which is usually very far from where we are on this subject of source. And so everything that we talk about is about your eternal relationship with this source energy. And our work is about your expansion. So it's a different point of view in this sense. We are standing as non-physical energy in the place is the wrong word, but in the vibrational place where all that your sifting of life experience has sent your rockets of desire. And we understand that everything that you will call future manifestation is right now present tense in terms of the vortex. So as we stand in the present tense that you all have conjured and put there, knowing that this present tense for us is your future experience as you allow it, we have to tell you that it's good news. We also understand that just as any of you are moving through your time-space reality now and focusing however you are, you can focus yourself into the vortex and begin having clear vision of the well-being that you have put there and that is being held for you. Or you can focus yourself outside the vortex and experience the discord of being outside the vortex. And there are plenty of things that are written about the outside the vortex perspective. The very thing that you're talking about in the difference in the way these two philosophies have evolved is inherent in the conversation that we just had with you about the reason we don't use the word God. This translator that you're describing is working very hard to build bridges for people about what God is. And in doing so, he must meet them on their terms. And therefore, he must meet them outside the vortex. In other words, that's where all of that conversation that most people are having conversations about future experience, most people are so hung up in the what's gone wrong with life. It's where the planet in peril comes from. It's where almost everyone who begins to tap into source energy begins to tap into the other side of it. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Most people are, anyone who is ever wanted to sell anything, whether it's a water treatment system or the idea of weapons of mass destruction or anything for that matter, have discovered that the bigger crowd, the crowd not on the leading edge incidentally, is much more drawn to the conversation of trauma and trouble to be overcome than the idea of well-being. In other words, it's It isn't that he is not tapping into source energy. He is. And it isn't that he isn't understanding it on many levels. It is that he is a builder of bridges. And from our perspective, in these times, with those like you gathered round and participating in the co-creation, we think that it's way time to begin focusing upon who you really are and not try to motivate you into the vortex by proclaiming what will go wrong if you don't go. In other words, you're not going to hear us threatening you with the things that will go wrong if you don't hear us and do the right thing. It's just not the way this is a universe that's based on attraction. There is no assertion, you see. Any of you could get on an airplane, not today, but soon, and fly to a beautiful city like Paris and take a cab from the airport to the hotel, and on the way step out into a newly overflowing sewer, and you could, in your disgust at what's all over your feet, you could proclaim, "So this is Paris." And others who have seen more would say, "Don't jump to that conclusion." "But this is my personal experience," you say. "How can I come to any other conclusion than the conclusion that I have come, when there is so much more to Paris than what you have seen at first glance," you see. And so we just want to point out that this is a very big world upon which you are living, and it is as diverse as the vibrational place from which you view it. And as you tune yourself to the frequency of who you really are, so that you allow yourself to be able to see this world through the eyes of source, hear all this seeing, envisioning, visualizing terminology that we're flowing at you. In other words, you are a focuser, you are an envisioner, you are one who guides the vibration of your being into alignment with who you are. And when you do that, there is not an iota of fear. There is not a particle of doubt or concern. There is not a realization that revelations will come to pass and that the end of the world is upon you. You are eternal beings. We are eternal beings. And from what we know of your vortex of creation, this collective consciousness that has been launched by the collective consciousness of that which is upon this planet, it is our promise to you that you are not petering out, that you are not moving toward extinction, that you are not on the brink of things going wrong. Your vortex of creation has never looked better. But what it does mean is the crevasse between those who align with it and those who don't becomes more distinct. The sick are sicker and the well are weller, and the poor are poorer and the prosperous are more prosperous. In other words, this vortex, this bounce side of the equation, this duality of life experience, this opportunity to explore contrast is more exaggerated than it has ever been before. Which means the potential for the richest of lives is there, and the potential for the discord of not allowing the richest of lives is there. In other words, you cannot be part of this collective consciousness where you are interacting with one another and living in your modalities as you do and launching these rockets of desires. Every person on this planet is part of the collaborative, co-creative solution which represents, in your manifested terms, future life experience, but represents in our vibrational terms reality as it stands right now in present tense. Everyone is a part of that, which means anyone who flows with it feels wonderful, and anyone who flows in opposition or resistance to it feels less good. And there are a lot of people there. This person that you speak of, powerful teacher, and so often in alignment with source, but also, like so many healers and teachers, so interested in where people are, and therefore often willing to deprive himself of complete alignment in his interest and well-meaning desire to assist others in coming into a better place of life. It's really what we've been talking about here. You cannot, any of us, focus upon the problems of an individual individual or of a people or of a society without leaving the vortex. And when you do, you are part of what they've got going on, not part of the solution that you all have launched. There's no getting around it. In other words, you're either in alignment or you're not. And this alignment, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it isn't something that is a static thing. You can't put up a measurement and say that person is meeting the measure and that person isn't, or that person is up to speed and that person isn't, because every single person has their individual gap between who they've become and who they're letting themselves be, you see. And you can feel and hear by the tone of the conversation that then ensues when they're up to speed and when they're not. In other words, anytime someone begins beating the drum of problems in order to attempt to inspire or motivate, you know they're not up to speed with who they are. Because when you're up to speed, no effort is necessary. The vortex is taking you in and doing the work, you see. That's why we say it again and again and again here until you are hearing it, or maybe even ready to no longer ever hear it again. And that is the work. The only work is to get in the vortex. That's the only work. Get in the vortex. That's the only work. Get in the vortex, which means your mood is your work. Your mood is your work. Esther is singing to Jerry, girls just want to have fun. That's what she's singing. And what she means is she just wants to have fun. She just wants to have fun. She just wants to have fun. Fun is in the vortex. I just want to have fun. I just want to have fun. I just want to have fun. And what that means is I want to feel interested. I want to feel passion because that's fun. I want to know new things because that's fun. I want to be who I am. I want to be fun. I want to be well. I want to be who I am. That's what your work is.
That's all you want.
And everything else is irrelevant, really. It'll all come along. Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Stand, yes. Wait.